Hey y'all, my name is Brianna, and this is the second devlog for the game It Still Counts. So, a quick recap from the last video. Like I said, this game is called It Still Counts, and it's for a 5-month long game jam hosted by Safe in Our World. So, in the last video, I said that I would actually explain more of the gameplay in this video once I actually had some more to show. So, essentially, this game kind of showcases how trauma is still trauma, no matter what the trauma was, or if you can remember all of it, or if you're like me and you only remember parts of it. I wanted that to be a important focal point, and for someone like me who's trying to validate myself in the fact that I did experience trauma when I was younger and it does still count as trauma, I thought other people might need the same validation and the same take on the idea that trauma is trauma and it still counts. For the gameplay loop, there will be three distinct areas in the game. So one area would be the 3D memories. That's the only area in which there is a physical 3D space for the player to walk around in. It's very dark. I am going to use a lot of lighting to kind of tell a story. The only things that really have color will be some of the interactable pieces in the world, kind of like Easter eggs into my life, things that I can and can't remember. But it'll go through one of three memories that I can remember, and the player plays through each of them. After a memory is done, the player gets sent back to another area. This is the therapy area. Now in a 2D space, and this is mostly just text. The player just reads through text between game version of myself and then the therapist quotations in the game who's kind of walking me through this and helping me out. And the last part is going to be a puzzle type game thing where um, you have to protect a flower with different kinds of blocks. And I'm actually taking inspiration from a game I used to play on Cool Math called Sugar Sugar, except you'll be keeping the particles from hitting the flower instead of trying to get them into a cup. Alrighty, so what's new in this devlog? Well, in the last video, at the end, I said I wanted to get some of the UI done. I wanted to recreate the 3D model of the house that I had made, and then get a few other art assets done. And luckily, because the UI art assets that I needed were also for a project for school, those are all pretty much done. And I also remade a really ugly version of the house I grew up in when I was younger. Here in these little clips that I have, you can see part of what the therapist version looked like with the UI and the text box. You can also see me walking around the 3D version of the house and one of the three memories I plan on having. And you can see the title menu and all the things I got done on it compared to what it looked like before. Here's where things got fun. I had all of this progress done on the game, and last Friday, everything was fine. Then Saturday, I go to open the game, and I am given this notification. After a small panic period, I was like, it's fine, me in our safe mode, let me see what's wrong. A lot was wrong. So I was like, okay, let me just get out of this and let me go to my version control because I've been using GitHub for the second time pretty much ever. And I was like, I've got this. This is totally fine. Well, that's when I realized that I had merge conflicts. And since this is only my second time using GitHub, being the first time I didn't even deal with the merging. I just pushed only to my branch, and someone else in my group from my class project dealt with the merging. I had never experienced this problem before, and let me tell you, I'm not a fan of them. This sucks, it was awful, and I lost pretty much all of my progress. Everything in those clips that you just saw was gone. After everything went to hell in a handbasket, I took a couple of days off because I was like, I cannot deal with this right now. And then after the weekend, I came back and I was like, all right, let me assess this problem and see if there's anything that I can save. So I found out that the last time I had basically a working project on GitHub was 7 days prior to when my game broke. That one had none of the code working in it that I needed, and the code that was working or that should have been there and working was completely erased. And it was just the basic start and update function that you see when you open a new C Sharp script in Unity. However, even though all of the script was broken, I was still able to take all of my art assets from there and put them into a new and fresh Unity project. Then I went back to GitHub. I opened the broken project and the most recent project that had pretty much all of the changes I had been working on. And I opened that one, and all of my scripts were there, but pretty much all of the UI, art assets, everything, all of the sprites I had imported, they were gone, they were missing. So I took all of the scripts and then I put them into a new Unity project, and then I took a break for a little while. After taking my second break, after trying to get my head on straight again, I decided that I would probably start working on the title screen first. It should be the easiest to go in and redo, especially since it's mostly just buttons and simple code and just figuring out all of that stuff. Since I had already had the code written and the art assets drawn, I just kind of had to replace them into the game world. Once I did that, I realized when I was working on the buttons that there was something I had done before that I ended up figuring out on accident, and that was the sprite swap between a button that's not selected or highlighted and what it turns into when it is. And for anyone who doesn't understand what that is, it's when you hover over like the button that says play or settings or credits or whatever, it's just a basic rectangle, and then when you hover over it, it turns into that little flower thing on the end. That is the sprite swap I was trying to figure out how to do. And the first time I figured out how to do it, it was a complete accident because there was problems with preserving the aspect ratio, and then when I figured out how to make it work, then there was problems with buttons overlapping each other. So when you went to click on a button, you were clicking on the next button down, or you couldn't even click on that button. There were a lot of problems. So it took me about an hour the first time I worked on the game to kind of accidentally stumble across a solution to this problem. Except this time, I had kind of the information from before, so I was trying to piece the puzzle in backwards this time. And I actually had to figure out what made it work and didn't work from the last time because I was not able to accidentally stumble across the solution this time. It took me about 3 hours to try and backtrack what I did before, and it was a hassle. So originally, when I was testing all the things, this is what the buttons would look like. This is what they would do. When you hovered over them, they did all of these different variations of sprite swapping. And then eventually, I was able to make it look like this, which was a lot more similar to how it looked previously before the game broke. And for anyone who's watching this video, I would like to know what your preference is for the sprite swap, since now I know how to do it. Do you like how it looks when I hover over the play button, Or do you like it more when I hover over the level select button? Please let me know in the comments down below. Unfortunately, this month I didn't get nearly as much done as I wanted to because I had that problem with the merge conflicts in GitHub, but I'm going to be a lot more wary of that now. And since this month is over, I am going to give myself a little wishful to-do list to have done by the end of August. So here we go. So first, obviously, I want to get my new Unity project for this game back to where I had it before the merge conflicts. I want to get all of that working. I need to get the 3D model scene back and set up properly because right now it doesn't have any of those homey touches. It's just the house model and a couple of lights. I also want to get the therapist office background drawn so that way I stop looking at such a blank and void scene every time I look on it. And I also need to go ahead and get all of the rest of the text box storyline into the game. But that'll be super easy because I've already got the code functioning and working the way I want it to. And then I also need to finalize what I'm going to be doing for the puzzle portion of the game, and I need to actually get that working and implemented properly because as of right now, you can place blocks, but you can't change the type of block you're placing. And obviously, if I have unique block types to make it more of a kind of intricate puzzle game, you need to be able to place those different blocks. That is my wishful to-do list because I know that I don't follow my own to-do list ever. So at the end of next month, we'll see where I've gotten on it. Please like my video because it really helps the algorithm. Please leave me a comment or a recommendation down below if you feel so inclined. And I hope to see you next month.